unmuted.
Hello.
Doc,
are you in?
Well, maybe you can join in the meeting. How option you join as a silent partner or
I'm a silent listener. Unmute hilo hat.
abulele.
Wabu.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We're just waiting for Dr. Samke. She'll be joining us in about a minute from now. As soon as she has joined us, we will then be able to go live. So please bear with me. Thank you.
Maybe I go with a question and we have to.
All right, we're just waiting for Dr. Samke to come in so that we can go live. So please bear with me. Shucks. Hi, Doc.
Hello, hello.
Please settle down. We are 3 minutes late already. Are you settled down?
Yes, we're having technical issues, but we sorted.
Okay, all right. We are gonna go live any moment now.
Okay.
All right. I'm just gonna unmute everybody else. I mean, to mute.
One second. Clementine, can you give me a power bank? Yes, yes. Getting back to you. Okay, we can continue. I can't hear you. You're muted.
All right. All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen who have joined us on this Dr. Fundi channel via multiple social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and also YouTube. Today, we have an interesting conversation in prospect. Today, we are going to host, or we are hosting Dr. Samke Ngcobo. All right. But before I tell you about who Dr. Samke Ngcobo is, let me just introduce myself. My name is Dr. Fundi Lenyati. I'm the host on this channel. I'm a family physician in terms of training with a special interest on matters of psychiatry. And so from time to time, you'll see me doing work relating to the space of mental health. But today we are hosting Dr. Samke Ngcobo. She's a qualified medical doctor who has been working as a medical doctor for just about 10 years. She has about 2 years experience, or that she worked in the pediatrics unit as a medical officer. She also worked for about 4 years in the psychiatry department at Wits. In that 4 years, she worked as an MO and also as a specialist in training, what is normally referred to as a registrar. Now, she describes herself as a dynamic, focused, and intentional young woman with passion for issues relating to holistic well-being. She prides herself with her excellent interpersonal skills. She describes herself as somebody who lives a purpose-driven life that is meant to benefit humanity, that is for greater good. She is also a professional public speaker who has won a number of awards. She's a member of the Toastmasters International, and she has a highlight in the public speaking space, being invited to speak at the Anglo-American Employee Wellness Function, that is in August last year. She's also a philanthropist. She set up an NPO, a not-for-profit organization called Sisters for Mental Health. And within that, they focus on psychoeducation, on matters of mental health, mental well-being, and mental illness. And that normally takes place during the hikes that they normally, arrange from time to time and arrange people who are interested to be part of those kind of conversations. She's also an entrepreneur. She set up a company called Vocal Mentality Pty Limited. Once again, that's a company that is involved in psychoeducation, especially in the corporate world. She's also an author of a recently launched book that is called Reflections of a Convoluted Mind, a Journey with My Mental Illness. So that is Dr. Samke Ngcobo. Samke, short for Samkelisiwe. Dr. Ngcobo, welcome to the Dr. Fundi channel. We seem to have lost Dr. Ngcobo. I'm not sure what the issue is, because she was with us just a few minutes ago, but somehow I think she has got some challenges. But anyway, let's wait for her to come back again. Let's see how we can use this time. Basically, on Sundays, like today, we normally on this channel choose a South African who is doing great things in their areas of interest or profession. We've hosted business people and we feature them about whatever that has made great in their chosen spaces. We have had sports people, people who have played for the national teams, and they share with us how they got to be where they are. We've had entrepreneurs here. We've also had professors of medicine and professors in the area of business. So basically, it's a feature that we call Salute Sunday. So our Salute Sunday, guest today is Dr. Samke Ngcobo. She has rejoined us. Please unmute yourself, Doc. Or please unmute yourself.
Perfect.
All right. Let's do this. All right. Let me just maximize this. All right. Okay, Dr. Ngcobo.
Good evening.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You are 3 hours ahead.
In another country.
Exactly, Doc. But anyway, when you were having some technical challenges, I introduced you, as a qualified medical doctor, about 10 years work experience. Somebody who describes herself as a dynamic, focused, and intentional young woman with passion for things that are related to holistic well-being. We advised our viewers that you pride yourself in your excellent interpersonal skills, that you live a purpose-driven life that is meant to benefit humanity. You are a professional public speaker. You are a philanthropist running an NPO called Sisters for Mental Health. You are an entrepreneur. You set up a company called Vocal Mentality Pty Limited. And you are also an author of a recently launched book called Reflections of a Convoluted Mind, a Journey with Mental Illness. So with that introduction, Doc, welcome to the Dr. Fundi channel.
Thank you so much and greetings to the viewers.
Lovely. Now, Doc, just tell us a little bit about Dr. Samke Ngcobo. Where was she born? Where did she grow up? What kind of family is she? A firstborn, lastborn, middle child? Just briefly, just to know a little bit about you before we focus on the professional side.
Okay, so I'm Samke Ngcobo. I hail from KwaZulu-Natal. I was raised in Durban, so we were staying in Z section until 1995 when we moved to the suburbs in Woodhaven. I'm
Yeah.
a child of my two parents who are both from Ladysmith, kodwa batholane eThekwini,
Oh,
when they were training. Yes. So I'm a middle child, a typical middle child with, middle child syndrome issues. I'm that person. And I've got two sisters, a younger sister, Nonkulego, and an older one, Utabi Lengidi, and my brother, Uzamongo.
oh, okay, all right. So you grew up in Umlazi. You said what section? Z?
Z section, not in my phasing.
Imag, Z section. When you come into Umlazi, there's those first robots. Z
Yes.
is on the left.
That is right at the top. We are doing
Okay.
Qhubeke beyond D, B. It's right inside.
Okay,
Gago
lovely.
Q.
Lovely, Doc. You know, I'm asking you because during our days as medical students at the University of Natal, we used to go to Mlazi to have a bit of fun at Executive Hotel. There was there was a nightclub there called Speak Easy. So we would go there and speak easy, looking for people to smile with. But anyway, right.
I know executive. W.
Exactly. All right, Doc. So yeah, today you are our guest. We want to know more about you, especially the work that you are doing. So you are a middle child, and middle children are generally, people who are independent, people who like shaking things up, people who obviously they are not firstborns, they are not lastborns, so they don't take anything for granted. They not fight for their space. And are you that type of person?
I am. I don't think I realized it. When I was young, I couldn't understand what's the one with Tumbu, then Umafungas, and then I don't have a title,
Yes.
Or they say Umaga Tabile, Umaga Nonku, mean I don't have a title. So I already knew early on there's something not balanced here. So as time went on, I knew that I have to stand out in order to be seen.
Yes, and tend to be vocal. You express yourself very well, as in, if there's something you don't like, you don't keep quiet, you vocal, you tell your parents exactly what you are going through. So you tend to be an open book to most people that know you very well. All right, and then where did you do your schooling?
I went to a school in Sydenham. My preschool was Get Me Ready pre-primary.
Yeah.
And then from there, I went to Seaview Primary. It's near Belen. It's in Seaview.
Yeah.
From there, when we had moved from Mlazi Gazette, we moved to Woodhaven, a Montclair area. So the nearest school there was Yellowwood Park Primary. So then that's when I finished. I started Yellowwood Park Primary in grade 4 up until grade 7.
Yeah. All right. So you went to a Model C school or what, private school? Model C school.
No, I went to Durban Girls High, not Durban Girls College. So it's the government one, but Model C. So it's not Durban Girls College, the private one. So I went to Durban Girls High School, and I started from grade 8 to matric, and it was a wonderful school, excellent education, and that's where my love of writing started.
Yes. So what were your highlights there at the school? And whether it's academics or sports, you've just talked about writing as well.
My highlights, it's two highlights. It's the friendships I established.
Yeah.
And it's discovering the subjects that I like.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with languages. I love the English language. So I took it as first language. But my dad was strict. So he said, you have enough time to speak English at school, at home. Zulu. So Zulu sifana nesingisi sami nje ngumZulu phaqa. So at Durban Girls High was a Model C school, English first language. When I was choosing subjects, Zulu was my second language, and I know my Zulu in and out. So I love languages. That's what I discovered at the time.
But do you have that Durban Zulu kind of thing where when that
not quite, but I would say, well, my patients, when I moved to Johannesburg in 2013, I started at East Rand, the Pulosong Hospital, when I was doing pediatrics there. That's where I did my community service. So my patients would always ask me, they'll say, "I doctor when upume KZN." So I guess I don't speak Joburg Zulu. They could tell us I'm from eThekwini, but it's not in northern KZN.
Yeah.
You know, it's some, but it's at eThekwini.
Lovely, lovely talk. So just one thing before we get to, you know, the tertiary space. Now,
Yes.
in the family that you grew up in, you know, what would you say are the values that you actually, you know, picked up, which are still your compass even today? That is family values and community values that you picked up, you know, during your early years that are still your compass today.
My compass is my religion. I'm Christian. I grew up in an Anglican upbringing. My mother is Fundi's daughter, Ubewuseva, and my uncle, Mfundisi Zulu, section, or he's retired now. So
Yes.
it's a very strong Anglican background. My father being Presbyterian, but my mother was dominating. I don't know how, because we end up going to mom's church and not dad's church. So and then when I relocated, I was also trying other ways. But my campus at home, we are a very strong Christian family. Yeah, my mother was Zulu, and yeah, Narango, yes.
Right.
Yes. So
but
it's that my campus is my religious faith.
Right. But besides that, you know, in terms of your love for education and your other successes,
Yes.
you know, what other things that you got there, you know, issues like hard work, love for
Yes.
education,
Yes.
family, or whatever, you know, what other values did you, you know,
my parents are very disciplined people, and they remain like that. So my level of, you know, excellence comes from both my parents. My mother's a nurse. She was a nursing sister. She's recently retired. My father was working at sorry?
Which hospital? Where was she working?
Uma ubesenza mekhod. Utrainele mekhod uma, but uma kathi retire, she retired Cato Manor Clinic, Ngasemena Gardens. So to keep up the health legacy, I decided to do my internship at McCord just to keep the generational thing going.
Yeah.
So I did my internship at McCord for the 18 months because I felt the connection with my mother because she trained there. It had a sentimental thing for me.
Yes.
So the hard work and the work ethic comes from both my parents. They're very disciplined people. My father, Ngati Sakula Emlazi, when you know, this is still apartheid times when you couldn't go to the suburbs, you know.
Yeah.
So at those times, my dad instilled that sense of education very early on. So even though we were staying gazettes, and then the library is the Montclair Library, we used to take us there. I used to hate reading, funny enough. Of the three siblings, I'm the one that hated reading. I just liked the concept of getting a book, borrowing it, returning it without reading it. I just didn't understand the concept. But my father instilled that importance in terms of, you know, being well-rounded. Don't just learn the subject at school and then you don't do anything else. So that discipline comes from both my parents. You don't just pass, you excel. But I think we overwhelmed my parents at the end, I think they worried when the marks were too high that are we okay?
You know, some people think that there's a fine line between very clever people and people, you know, who may have other challenges. But anyway, thank you for sharing that kind of you know, information. Now, I mean, you mentioned Makot's, you know, it used to be called Makot's Zulu Hospital. You know, in a long time ago, it was a very, very good missionary hospital. A lot of, you know, nurses, prominent nurses in KZN and beyond were trained there or at King Edward, you know, hospital. So both hospitals have always been very good hospitals in terms of training for anyone who wanted to take the nursing profession. So it's good that you are actually following on the footsteps of your mom in the healthcare space.
Absolutely.
You've taken it a little bit, you know, further than your mom, and you'll keep that legacy. All right, Doc. And so, yeah, at what point then did you decide, no, I want to study medicine? You know, you were at Durban's Girls High. At what point? Was it in grade 10, grade 11, grade 12, grade, you know, at what level?
I had no interest in being a doctor, to be honest. Absolutely none. I wasn't that child that was crazed by a stethoscope. It didn't hype me. I wasn't hyped by injections. In primary school, I just liked writing on the board. I loved it. So I thought I'd be a teacher. And I respect that profession so much. I'm a teacher at heart.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well,
and
I mean,
then the change.
it's still possible to be a teacher
Yes.
whilst you are in another profession. Like now, you are doing psychoeducation via your company and via your NPO. So you have not
Absolutely.
really lost that teaching side of you, but you are using
Absolutely.
it, for public health education.
Yes, yes, yes. So I'm a teacher at heart. The doctor bug bit me not in saying I want to save the world and I like scrubs, I like hospitals. It wasn't that. But what drew me to being a doctor was the love of people. I love people. I love connection. I love authenticity. So
Yeah.
that was what made me take the doctor route. So it was a choice between psychology and then to be a psychiatrist. So I knew early on. I said I want to be a psychiatrist. I didn't know what that meant. I was 14. And what
Yes.
inspired that is that at the age of 14, I had my first mental episode, psychotic episode.
Yeah.
So that is what made me decide then that, okay, maybe it's not teaching. I'm supposed to be a psychiatrist. So I was very clear at the age of 14. I didn't know what that meant. But
Yeah.
what I knew is that what that doctor did for me, I want to do for the next person. So I've always loved studying human behavior. I've
Yeah.
always loved, looking at people. I'm very intuitive and perceptive. So it was either I'm going to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And then I veered towards medicine.
Yes. All right. That's very interesting, Doc. Very, very interesting. All right. So you applied to go to med school. Which
Yes.
universities did you go to? I mean, do you apply to?
Yes, I only applied once. I was still being attached to Abazali. I couldn't think of anything outside of Etegwini. So
Yeah.
I was going to, I was raised, I went to Durban Girls High, MB,
Yeah.
Then I applied once. I only applied to one place. I applied to UKZN, to Nelson R. Mandela School of Medicine. So I only applied once and then I was accepted there. So my life continued with radius, MB, for a good number of years.
Yes. Lovely, lovely, Doc. I think I'm experiencing some challenges this side, but I will tell you if those are actually becoming serious. But anyway, now let's then you trained. Where did you do your undergrad training in medicine?
Nelson R. Mandela School of Medicine. I graduated in 2011.
Okay, all right. That's the same varsity where I graduated in 1989.
We alumni, yakon.
Yebo. All right. And so wafunda eThekwini, but then you decided your internship and ComServe, you are going to do it in Gauteng. Why?
No, I did my internship at McCord Hospital. I was following in mommy's footsteps. So for 18 months, I did my internship at McCord Hospital because, wanting to keep this legacy. My mom trained there, it had the sentimental value, but also I'm a very private person. So I chose a hospital that many people didn't want. I think the McCord interns didn't get paid enough. We were the least paid ones because the Prince M ones got the rural allowance.
Yeah.
So I didn't care. I just wanted to stay in a safe space. I'm very private, so McCord worked for me.
Beautiful. All right. So, Doc, let's get back then, to when you first experienced, the mental health related episode. You said you were age 14?
Yes, age 14, 2001. So it's actually the 20th anniversary this year of my diagnosis, my index.
Yes. All right. Just tell us a little bit about that, Doc.
I was very young at the time, so I don't have consistent information that I'd have maybe about the recent episode. But I do know that I was 14 years old. I was in grade 9, Durban Girls High. I think my behavior was becoming increasingly abnormal. I wasn't aware. As you would know, when you're having an episode, you're not aware that there's something wrong. Even if you're psychotic, you don't think there's something wrong. So I didn't see anything problematic, but I do recall seeing very worried faces in my parents' expressions. Obviously, I had my own reality at the time. I started talking about deceased relatives. I'm telling my mother that her sister, Uncanny, is talking from heaven and sending messages. So I was saying all these things I could communicate with deceased relatives. To be honest, I didn't hear them, but I just believe I had that spiritual gift to communicate with people who are deceased.
Yes. All right.
Mr. Nyati, people are saying that they're stuck in the waiting room. They're saying in the waiting room of the Zoom call, they're still in the waiting room.
Well, we don't have anyone here at this moment. We've allowed people in.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have anyone. There's basically about 12 people who are here. So they need to try again. There is a support staff for myself that is actually assisting with that, so they should be able to go in.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, let's get back to our discussion. So yeah, so you had that, episode at age 14. You were not very clear what
Yes.
was happening. All right.
Yes.
So and you were seeing that your parents were a bit worried about what they were observing. What were they
Yes.
observing?
They were concerned. This was so new. We don't have a family history of mental illness. So what they were seeing was just bewildering to them. Other than my aunt, Aunt Bafigile, she had a mental illness, but I don't think she was actually treated as such.
Yeah.
So this is my father's older sister.
Yes.
So growing up, I found Aunt Bafile to be strange as a child. I didn't understand. She didn't engage. She smoked a lot, but I didn't understand. But my father would speak affectionately about her and say, she used to be charismatic. So only in my medical understanding did I realize that she actually had a severe depression and was catatonic to a point of being robotic. But I mean, I didn't know at the time what that meant. Just my training in psychiatry that made me realize, no, my aunt had a severe depression and was catatonic. And she had it, I think, before we were born. So we knew her to be like that. But my father used to describe her as industrious, used to bake hot cross buns. And I couldn't actually see who that person was. I actually didn't believe it, And my mother would say that she was very close to sister-in-law to be like, they'd go out. But I couldn't see because she was a shadow of herself. I only knew her in the way that she was. So what I was presenting was brand new to my parents. So they tried everything, They pursued the church. We didn't go deep in the cultural aspect, but they were so desperate that they were willing to try because they didn't know what was happening. But I'm just so grateful that I was born into the family that I was born in because, the religious background is so strong. And also my father and my mother were open-minded, but in pursuing mental health care services. And if you think about it, this was 2001. What was psychiatry? It's a KZN was for the first time ever. It's not like there was a descendant of bipolar, I was the pioneer, as I say, of it.
Yeah. All right. So, and your mom being a nurse obviously must have come in very handy, in terms of, guiding the family on how to deal with this young child who has got presentations that may be pointing towards a particular direction. So at what point did you actually get to be diagnosed, that this is definitely the clinical condition that you're suffering from?
The saddest thing for me in this whole thing, and I think, to parents who, whatever the child has, ADHD or any relative that's acting strangely, it's very important once the person has settled to tell them what happened. No one told me what happened. I found myself being, escorted to hospital. I do remember, I thought the billboards were talking to me. I remember, I just thought, hey, but why are these adverts depicting my life? Why are people listening to my thoughts? So they play the radio, Zalukozi FM. DJ, So I was uncomfortable to think because I felt that people could listen. It's only when I did psychiatry, now you're translating it into English and you're saying, thought broadcasting and all those things and delusions and psychosis.
Yes.
So then they took me to EduDoc Center, City Hospital. And that was my first contact. So I'm sitting in the waiting room. Now I'm just speaking from memory now, what happened. I'm speaking from, so we went to City Hospital. The first contact with mental health care services was a psychologist. Dr. Mbenze, you might know her, Dr. Mbenze, the psychologist. Yes. And then she is the one that managed me. Shortly afterwards, I was then admitted to the psychiatric ward at City Hospital with Dr. Ngcobo.
Yes.
That is the late Dr. Ngcobo.
Yes, I see. Yes, I know him. Yes. Right. And so they made the definitive diagnosis to say this is, the type of illness that you're suffering from.
Yes. But they didn't tell me. No one told me that I have a mental illness. No one told me. When I asked my doctor, Dr. Ndlovu, actually the person who inspired me to take this route of mental health. He's the one that made me decide, Well, he didn't make me. I wanted to be him. So he said I have a mood disorder. They didn't tell me I have bipolar. And in hindsight, I think he was protecting me from living up to a label.
Yes.
And I'm grateful he didn't tell me. Because it may have been my excuse, bipolar, and that's why he's excusing certain behaviors. So when I asked Dr. Ngcobo, what happened to me, he just said, you have a mood disorder. So I just thought, okay, I'm a moody person. But remember now, age 14,
Yes.
It's hormones, teen hormones,
Yes.
I just thought, I'm just a moody person, just generically because teenagers are moody people. I didn't know that I actually have a disorder of mood.
Yes. Yes. All right. Okay. Right. So when that was happening, did it affect your schooling in any way?
Absolutely, it did. So when I finished primary school at Yellowwood Park, I was one of the top 10 students. I remember I was the only black child with top 10 when I won the certificate. So
Yes.
I went into a very competitive class. So in 8 Girls High, grade 8, they put all the top achievers of every primary school and
Yes.
Sonke the class in the Lodwa. And
Yes.
so grade 8, Sengu number 39 with an A average because it was just
Yes.
a high functioning, high performing class. So self-esteem issues were coming there, but also then the over ambition came in because who number 39 with an A average. So then, that sense of wanting to be on a hamster wheel. And that's when the parents were becoming worried. It's okay to get a B. We're not expecting much, but it was just that drive. So grade 8, it's the straight A's all the way.
Yeah.
Grade 9, I'm getting sick. I'm unaware that there's something wrong. My marks took a nosedive.
Yeah.
Shortly after, I was admitted to hospital. I came back. I had gained a lot of weight because of sodium valproate.
Yeah.
So at that time, I was overthinking, pacing around, over religious, the whole 9 yards. This is grade 9. When I returned from school, because they knew that I'm a high performer, they were very accommodating at Durban Girls High. Because I mean, if a student is coming from grade 8 straight A's, now grade 9, I mean, for me, it felt like a failure to get a B average. I did pass, I didn't fail, but to me, it felt like a nosedive. So
but
despite
it was not the standard that you are used to.
Yes. So for me, it felt like a failure. With I wasn't B when I'm getting straight A's. So what happened was in the one term when I was admitted, remember, I'm a school terms, there were 4 school terms.
Yes.
So the one when I was sick, they made provision. They didn't count those results.
Yes.
So they really were understanding. So they counted the average of the other 3, and then that's how they worked out my marks.
Yes. Doc, just for a little second, there's a little challenge here. I want you to continue to just tell to talk about your story. I'm just switching to another room so that I can continue with the interview there. I hope you do not
so
mind.
I can just carry on speaking. I can carry on speaking.
Carry on speaking. In a minute, I'm going to join you because I'm worried that something might just happen to this laptop here.
Not a problem. So as I was still saying, in grade 9, that's when my marks took a nosedive, and the nosedive being a straight B's. So it wasn't a failure. But because my teachers knew that I'm a high performer, they did not count the term marks for the time when I was sick. They counted the 3 terms and got an average of a B. So I did not fail. And then my schooling career continued, but my self-esteem took a knock at the time. I had gained a lot of weight. And, imagine in high school, you're moving from, you're this petite student. All of a sudden, you've gained a lot of weight. And that's what had happened to me. So it was difficult because I couldn't understand why I had gained so much weight. My diagnosis wasn't explained to me. I didn't know why. So I resented this medication, and I actually discontinued taking that medication. But I had come to acknowledge just, mentally that I have a diagnosis of a mental illness, but I definitely did not internalize that, I'm unwell and I'm different to other people. So, my high schooling continued, and even though I was no longer on treatment, which I had stopped, there was no further follow up. Continuing in high school. So I had a very amazing high school career going forward. I didn't become sick again up until I went to university. So my high school career, I mean, I can't say I enjoyed high school. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't that. I was very much of a nerd, very academic. I just buried myself in the dining room. I would study nonstop. And that was my fun. And I'd rest. I do, in hindsight, think that, I was a very shy and reserved child. My sister just happy sitting in the corner couch, invisible, and I just watched television. I didn't want to shop. I just wanted to lie on the couch. And I don't think it was because I was unwell. I was just a very reserved somebody, and I was shy. In high school, my highlights are the friendships I did. Highlights of high school. I mean, I became a prefect. I hated being a prefect because I didn't want to I didn't believe in the concept of policing people. I feel like I wanted it as a high achiever, which include by prefect, for the glamour. But when when it came to actually doing it, I didn't enjoy it because I'm like, why must I be doing all these duties? So in high school, my best friends, which I still have even now, and we were friends since 2000, Dorothy and Rienzi, where they're still my best friends. And that's what I cherish. That's what I take home. That's the highlight of my high school career at Durban Girls High School. It's the friendships I developed and realizing that I love languages, I love writing, I love English. That's the only thing I took there. I mean, high school was great. I'm not that connected to people I went to high school, but when I see them, I greet them because we had bonded. So my favorite subjects, I hated maths, but I did maths because I had to get to med school. If I could bypass medical school, sorry, it was a fight between my father and I because he wanted me to do accounting as one of my subjects. And I said to him, I'm not going to do accounting, I want to do geography. So I counted it as my resting subject. Because he said, you need to know financial management, you need to manage money, you need to know this. And I said, and I think that was the rebellious middle child in me that was saying, no, fine, I'm doing biology. I know what I want to get into varsity. So I did the subjects that were required. I knew I had to do maths. I couldn't drop it. And I did English. I loved English. I fell in love with English on the one time when one of my teachers was absent. And then in this one particular class, the teacher just made me fall in love with English. And I fell in love with poetry. I fell in love with writing essays, creative expression. And hence, if one has read my current book, Reflections of a Convoluted Mind, it has that poetic feel to it because of that. And my favorite teacher of all time is Mrs. Whitemanter. I loved her. She made me fall in love with English. And then the other one, what is her name? Mrs. Fisher. So those are the only teachers I remember. And then Sister Biela or Dr. Biela. So those are my three favorite teachers. English class, it was Mrs. Fisher and Mrs. Whitemanter. And then I loved my Zulu class. And we're still friends when I bump into them. And I actually absolutely love that. So I love my English class. I love my Zulu class. And those are my favorite subjects. I hated maths. I still don't like maths. If I can have somebody doing my books with my company, then you're welcome to do so. If you can outsource, you can outsource. That's what I believe. So my Zulu class was amazing. I'm still in contact with my friends from high school. We see each other in, when there's functions, in be it a funeral, or we greet, we're still fond of each other. So recently I did bumped into one of my high school mates and it was like we saw each other yesterday. So we were such a family in our Zulu class. So I loved it very much. But I was disappointed to not get the Zulu prize because my best friend, Udoro Nosisa, is the one that came first in the grade for Zulu. And then I was the runner-up. So I felt my friend, I didn't win any trophies in high school. I was eyeing the Zulu trophy and then she got it. So I wasn't top for any of my subjects, like I performed well, like A average, but I wasn't like the English prize and all of that. But I knew then that I loved English. I love Zulu. I just love languages. And I don't think I can write a book in Zulu. I'm not that proficient, My mother, also, I taught myself, my dad forced us to read Zulu. I wasn't taught at school. I learned Zulu through reading the Bible. And I didn't even understand what those words meant. In primary school, I'm going to Fundi Zulu. We must last nightmare would be a child and I was a home language. So he was very deep on that. So that's why my Zulu is so intense. It's equally as intense as my poetic English. So yes. So
right.
So
Now
I won't write a Zulu book ever in my life. I'm not proficient.
Yes, but I mean, you've been telling us that all this time you were finding your love in languages.
Yes.
You were, you were the one who was enjoying writing, and yes, you were excellent, in your academics. You were doing your A's average, and yes, you dropped a little bit in that year. From grade 8 to grade 9, but still you were a high performer. Now,
yes.
my issue then is, how did you then switch, and say, okay, I am not going to do, languages, when I get to tertiary? I think that's the gap that I have.
I was very clear, Uguti, by the time I got to high school and after my episode and becoming ill, I knew by then that I want to work and in mental health. I
Yeah.
knew very early on that I love human behavior. I study people, well, without the qualification. I'm very intuitive and perceptive about people.
Yeah.
So it then became narrowed down when it was subject choice time. I knew, Uguti, I want to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And as
Yeah.
you know, mental health and I'm a psychologist that sometimes your issues are what draws you to something. So ngagula with a psychiatric issue. My first
Yeah.
encounter with the doctor was not a pediatrician, it was a psychiatrist and a psychologist. And then I
Yeah.
became attached to that. Hence,
Yeah.
I knew
A doc?
when it came to grade 11 and 12 that because I
Yeah.
wanted to be a doctor, I just love people. And I knew then to be that, I'd have to do that. But I also wanted the challenge, the academic challenge of, so I then narrowed it down. Sam, are you doing psychology or psychiatry? And it
Yeah.
wasn't, I actually to this day don't feel that one is superior to the other. I love both. I have
Yes.
an utmost respect because I'd be on the streets without those disciplines. I'd be living on the streets if without those disciplines. You wouldn't be talking to me.
Yeah, but actually, it enriches you even with, I mean, with medicine. The fact that you've got that rich background and foundation of languages and your written,
Yes,
your writing skills are actually, because then it gives you, a broader scope within medicine in terms of the kind of things that you can do with
absolutely.
your medical degree. So,
Absolutely.
because we tend
Yes.
to limit ourselves, to just what has always been done, by people before us, within the profession. But actually, there are no limits as to what you can do. You can bring in all these other skills that you acquired before you actually studied medicine.
Absolutely.
All right?
I 100% agree with you. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's get now to tertiary. Then you at UKZN.
Yes.
How was the adjustment into university?
There wasn't much of an adjustment, eh? Because
Yeah.
remember I said to you, I went to Durban Girls High,
Yeah.
Isembilo,
Yeah.
Nelson R. Mandela,
It's same.
Isembilo.
Yeah.
And then ubaba ngafuna isihlale res ngangisahlale ekhaya, so I didn't have like a party life. My entire varsity life was at home, so there's no
Yeah.
history of drunken parties and all of that.
Yeah.
I was quite nerdy.
Really?
When I finished matric, I had read, like I said, I decided to be a doctor. I just wanted that scientific challenge as well
Yeah.
and hence I let go of psychology because of that. But I still loved it. I still love it to this day. Then when I started first year at medical school, I had gotten a bursary because my marks were very good. And my highest mark was, I have to share, it was English.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Zulu, yeah.
Yeah.
And geography. Those
Yeah.
were my highest, and those are my favorites still. So it wasn't
Yeah.
biology. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, but you still did reasonably well in biology.
No, I did everything well. I came in with a bursary to medical school.
Yeah.
My marks dropped when I became ill. I had a bursary for first year, second year, and third year. Then third year I became sick, and then obviously that affected my performance. But I was a high performer in medical school as well.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. All right. So as you are now getting into the clinical years and you guys were getting to be exposed to the different disciplines of medicine, from fourth year going up, when you were within the psychiatry department, did you, have any particular interest there, or, you were just okay, peds, internal medicine, surgery, gynae, there was no particular interest? I'm just asking.
You know what? It's a very interesting question you're asking me because I did medicine solely with the intention of being a psychiatrist. If there was no discipline called psychiatry, I would not have done medicine. I love people, but I did not connect with anesthesia. I passed very well. And in every rotation I did an internship, they'd say, why don't you become this one day? I had no interest. I did medicine to be a psychiatrist, full stop.
All right. Okay. All right. So therefore, I would expect that maybe, when you look at your results, in final year of medicine, psychiatry must have featured up there in terms of your top marks.
Not at all. Not at all. I actually did. It was my worst block in medical school. I did very badly because it triggered me. It triggered me and my illness. It was
Yes.
triggering me because I was seeing people in state hospitals. I mean, the psych wards are different to every other ward. In the securities there, the gates, and so being in the psych wards was actually quite traumatic for me because I was told I have a mental illness, and I'm seeing these patients there. So I did not do well because I was uncomfortable.
Wow. Okay. All right, but you did enough to finish your medicine in record time, right?
No, not in record. I didn't finish in record time. Our degree, when I was in medical school, it was a 5-year curriculum.
Yeah.
So I'm acing medical school first year, second year, third year with my bursaries being renewed because I was performing that well.
Yeah.
Then I became ill. I became very ill with my psychiatric illness. My marks dropped. So then I didn't finish in record time because I was becoming sick. I was being admitted and then it delayed my studies.
Yeah. But anyway, you eventually qualified. What year did you qualify? You said 2011?
2011, yes.
All right. Okay. Now, Doc, let's get to your working life. Yes, you did your internship at Maports, and then you went and you did ComServe at, was it Pulusong?
Pulusong Hospital, yes. I wanted to
Really?
escape now. So I needed to venture out. I could not have gone to Port Shepstone. I had to just diversify. Yeah.
Lovely. All right. So you did your internship, you did your ComServe, and then you had a 2-year rotation as an MO.
Yes.
Was it Pulusong?
Yes, Pulusong. I was doing pediatrics.
All right.
With Dr. Samke Ngcobo in Pulusong, yes.
Yes, and then you did 4 years of being an MO and also as a reg in psychiatry. All right.
Yes, I did 6 months as a medical officer in psychiatry when I was at Tara Hospital.
Yes.
Then after the 6 months, I passed the application and I went immediately into the registrar program.
Yes.
At Wits University. So I joined the psychiatry department then.
Yes. Now, you remember you said you actually chose to do medicine specifically because you wanted to do psychiatry.
Absolutely.
So now you were eventually within that department that you actually chose medicine for. So how was that, 3 years or so, as a psychiatry reg?
I loved it. When you feel at home.
Yeah.
There's no discipline in medicine that I love more than psychiatry. I loved it. Like I respect the discipline so much.
Yes.
So it lived up to that in every sense of the word. I loved the rotations. I was at Tara Hospital. I loved it there. Very academic, very tertiary. It's a quaternary center that has, your personality wards, resistant patients. Sorry, ward 4 and 5. Let me not say personality wards. Your ward 8. So I loved it there. That was as a medical officer. Then I joined the program.
Yeah. All right. And also, you work in those multidisciplinary teams because, when I was looking at your bio, I mean, you highlight the fact that, that ability to work with social workers, psychologists, occupational therapists, dietitians, as part of a team that looks after the mental health, of patients actually gave you a much more rounded view of how to assist, a patient. And did you, at a personal level, did that help you in any way now almost, better managing your own situation?
100%, 110%. When I got into the psychiatry, my mind was, I thought there's a psychologist and a psychiatrist. That was just my understanding. Yeah. So when I started at this university, the registrar program, that's when I realized, mental health is not just about the psychologist and the psychiatrist. There's an occupational therapist who I believe is equally important as the psychologist, equally important as the person with the DR title. So there's no hierarchy in managing a patient who's mentally unwell. So yes, the MDT is critical in a patient's well-being and in my well-being.
Yes, and at this point, was your condition relatively controlled? Remember, you mentioned that you were diagnosed with bipolar mood disorder type 1. Can you maybe, just for the benefit of some of the viewers who may not understand what bipolar mood disorder type 1 is, can you just briefly, say what that is? I mean, how is it different to type 2?
Okay, bipolar disorder type 1, bipolar disorder 2, and depression fall under the umbrella of mood disorders. Then you get your psychotic disorders, which are your schizophrenia, where the patient is out of touch completely. I'm putting things simply, of course, I'm not being scientific,
Yes.
for the benefit of
Yes.
the listeners. So your psychotic disorders or your schizophrenia, as an example, those are when the patient is not in touch with reality completely. So
Yes.
your bipolar disorder, your depression, and your bipolar 2 fall under the umbrella of mood disorders. Bipolar 1 is the one I have.
Yes.
You have to satisfy certain criteria. The DSM-5 has evolved. When I was in medical
Yes.
school, it was the DSM-4. It's
Yeah.
DSM-5. I'm sure in 10 years' time it will be DSM-10.
Yeah.
DSM-10. So things change along the way. It's an evolving science. It's unlike any other where things are definite. So you have the DSM coding that changes. The criteria change with time. So at times, so with bipolar, you have to satisfy certain criteria. And a lot of the time with psychiatry, its time frames are important in order for someone to satisfy a certain diagnosis. People often ask, if I'm down, how do I know that I'm depressed? Just feeling down because I'm upset? How do I know then I now have a disorder that says depression? And it has a lot to do with the time frames of how long, be it a week or 2 weeks or 1 day. So feeling down and being in bed for 1 day does not automatically mean you have depression. Does not automatically mean you have bipolar. The durations play a role. Then there's criteria. So certain conditions, they'll say, if you satisfy 4 or 5, 4 or 5 criteria, then it's diagnostic of bipolar. So there'll be a list of symptoms, be it depression, be it bipolar, that certain criteria have to satisfy. So they'll say, if you have 3 or more of these, then it's diagnostic. And then it's the duration. Depression is 2 weeks. Bipolar, so of low mood, persistently low mood, 2 weeks consistently, then it's diagnostic. Then you obviously look at the criteria as well, where there's change in neurovegetative features. Simply putting for the listeners is, your sleep, your energy, your concentration. And then with bipolar, what makes bipolar different to depression is mania. So both are mood disorders, but bipolar is different to depression because of the mania, the manic episode. And what is that? It's elevated mood, irritability, whereas in depression, it's not the case. So I always try and put it simply. I'm not being scientific. I want somebody who doesn't know the difference to understand what I'm saying. So bipolar disorder, I say, in the past, depression used to be called unipolar depression. Bipolar, 2 poles. Bipolar, it's 1 pole, 1 area facing 1 direction. I'm trying to explain like I'd explain to a patient. Basically.
No. I hear you, Doc. I hear you. Yeah.
And then bipolar, I say there's 2 poles facing opposite to each other, which makes it different to depression, which faces 1 direction. And that's how they're different, because with bipolar, you're elevated mood, irritable, excited, grandiose, and then the other side is then the depressive aspect. And a lot of the time, people don't realize that bipolar has a very, very heavy and dense depression. So that's how I'm putting it simply for the listener to understand it. How does bipolar differ to depression, without being too scientific and being a textbook.
Okay. So basically, what we're saying here, in a normal situation, without a mental illness, we fluctuate. If there's like, let's say, at a horizontal level, we fluctuate between happiness, which is more on the positive side, and sadness, which is on the negative side, but within a certain threshold, right? So that happens to everybody. One day you wake up, you're feeling a bit sad. The other day you're quite happy, but that is within what is considered normal. For it to be a disorder, now you've got excessive sadness, or excessive happiness, to a point that it interferes with your your social or even occupational functioning. So when we are talking bipolar, we are then talking about a condition where you've got both excessive happiness and also excessive sadness at different times. All right. And then you talk about the type 1 and the type 2. you know, I mean, without, like you were saying, we don't want to be technical here, but type 1 tends to have mania, which is excessive, like highly excessive happiness, all right? Whilst type 2, you still get the happiness, but it's slightly above the normal, but they call it hypomania. Am I right?
Yes, you're correct.
Right. So, but it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, this is a chronic clinical
Lifelong.
condition. It's
Lifelong,
important
yes.
for people to know that once you've been diagnosed with bipolar mood disorder, it is a chronic, you know, condition. It is manageable, you know, through various interventions, you know, medical, you know, psychotherapy and other interventions. So a person can live a productive life,
Yes.
you know, under treatment for those conditions. All right.
Yes.
So, of course, we are going to talk later about the impaired doctors. So I thought it's important before we get there for people to understand that the condition that you presented with, that you are living with, is
Yes.
a manageable, you know, mental health condition
Yes.
with appropriate medical treatment, psychotherapy. Sometimes there may be other interventions, you know, that are added depending, you know, but it's largely with medicines and psychotherapy and other
Years. So I tell close friends that I have this condition called bipolar. It's a mood disorder. No insight whatsoever as to what exactly warrants me to go to hospital. I didn't understand. No one has ever told me, Sam, when you are ill, this is what happens to you. So I think it's very important. If you have a relative who's been diagnosed, when they've recovered and been discharged, you need to sit them down and say, look, when you are ill, firstly, you're unaware, but this is what you end up doing when you are unwell. Because I had no insight that when you're manic, you're not aware that there's anything wrong. So I think for me, I have told my family and friends that if they find my behavior strange, the worst thing they can do is to tell me that I'm acting strangely to my face.
Yeah.
Because it'll escalate and I will win because I'm the aggressive one at the time. So they need to communicate with each other. So what I've done, I have a very, very strong group of friends. I am so blessed to have the friends that I have. They are intuitive, they're insightful.
Yeah.
So in recent weeks, actually yesterday, I created a WhatsApp group of the people I trust most, who I know will respond when I'm mentally unwell. Because I actually have had a very challenging week this week. So I try and safeguard myself. It was I was actually, you know, to be honest, I was relapsing this week, interestingly. So I decided to create a safety net for myself. Because when the behavior becomes out of control, people don't realize, you know, you're unwell. So I want to, the most frustrating thing when you're manic is people dismissing it as it's because you're unwell. When you are, maybe I'm aware that my mood is irritable, but I still can say, I want this, I don't want this. So what I did was, I created a WhatsApp group. I call it, what do I call it? Oh, Sam's, what do I call it? Oh, Sam's, and we call it NOKs.
Yeah.
My what's the word? Next of kins. It's the knocks. I call it Sam's next of kins. So those people, if there's a crisis, they're in one WhatsApp group, and then they must act, because when I'm unwell, I can't think for myself. So I put the most trusted people in my life. There's a WhatsApp group right now. I'm so proud of that concept, by the way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's important again, you know, what you are, you know, you talked about holistic wellness.
Absolutely.
You know, in your bio, and holistic, you know, holistic health, holistic wellness, the biological, that is physical, you know, psychological, social, and spiritual, biopsychosocial, spiritual. Now,
absolutely,
what you have created, that NOK is part of your social support system, which is very critical to anybody who is, you know, who is living with a chronic health condition, you know, especially for mental health. So you are actually practicing what, you know, you are preaching, you know, the issue of holistic wellness. And I also think the appreciation of the role of those social interventions in the multidisciplinary teams that you used to work, you know, within Tara and places like that. You know, you are now bringing it to your own situation, you know.
Absolutely.
So yes, Yes.
Yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
So, yeah. So, so Doc, now, you obviously have been a medical doctor now for quite some time. Has this clinical condition in any way affected your ability to practice medicine?
It has,
Yes.
but not in the. It has because
No. I'm asking, practice in a way that it would be detrimental to the work that
no,
you do.
never. I have
Yes.
I have a brilliant doctor who manages me. She is so
Yes.
insightful.
Yes.
So when I'm stable and I'm not stressed, I see her twice a year to renew my script. When I'm
Yes.
having a stressor, I reach out. And I
Yes.
learned that those skills when I was admitted to a Keso Crescent clinic. I don't know if I'm not allowed. Am I allowed to say names of places I've been
No,
to?
it's fine. It's okay. Up until I start having, people who are sponsors, then maybe I'll be a bit funny about that. But for now, you can talk.
Okay. So 2017 was my life-changing admission.
Yes.
I was admitted to a Keso clinic in
Yes.
Randburg.
Yes.
I was admitted there for 21 days because
Yes.
I had relapsed at work.
Yeah.
I had not endangered a patient at any point.
Yes.
I was just, my mood was just uncontrollable, but I was unaware yet again.
Yes.
So there were complaints about me. I was unaware.
Yes.
And I was rotating at the time at Sterkfontein Hospital Ward 8. Sterkfontein
Yes.
is like proper,
Yeah.
So I'm in Sterkfontein Ward 8 and it's my second row. I was still a first year registrar, second half.
Yeah.
So I'm starting this rotation. I'm very intense in how I do things. I'm unaware I'm unwell, but in hindsight, I was unwell. I was leaving work at 7 p.m. It was not necessary to leave that late on a Friday. It's pouring outside, but I didn't think there's anything wrong. And also there's an element of trying to prove yourself. So I was overdoing it unnecessarily. But then the one day, my consultant that I was reporting to at the time calls me and says, Samke, I'd like to see you. So I'm thinking, okay, no problem. There's no problem here. Calls me to her office and says, Samke, there are complaints about you. Now, in my life, my work ethic, you cannot mess with me with my work ethic. You just can never. You may say one thing, but not my work standard. I take my work seriously, and I love. For me, it's not a chore to be at work. I can see 40 patients in a day. I feel at home. So when now they're complaining about and it wasn't even about the delivery. It was my behavior, my personality. They felt there were complaints that they find me to be rude and dismissive.
Yeah.
So I was shocked like anything. So what I like about the consultant I was reporting to at the time is that she wasn't accusing me. She just said, Samke, there's an issue here. There are complaints about you. And then I think when she saw that, I genuinely was shocked. I think she saw that, okay, this is not somebody who's difficult to work with.
You didn't have insight, and you were not you were not malicious in any way. Yeah.
Absolutely. So what I appreciate about her is that when I was shocked by this, she realized that genuinely I'm not somebody who's dismissive and rude. Then I just burst into tears and I cried for 2 days flat. But when she said that, I then realized, I'm like, oh no, I think I've relapsed. So I then tell her. And before I carry on, I think people must be, declaring your illness is an important thing, but you don't have to.
Yes.
In any work setting, you don't have to say. But I felt you must tell your diagnosis where you feel safe because it can be used against you.
Yes.
I felt safe with this particular doctor, Dr. Maynard.
Yeah.
And she was the catalyst in me seeking the correct help.
Yeah.
She then refers me to the psychiatrist who came highly recommended, who's still my doctor till today.
Yeah.
It was a debate to get me admitted. I fought. So I then told Dr. Maynard, I said, Dr. Maynard, I have bipolar and I think I'm relapsing. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I can't stop crying. Yes. All I know is that I'm a nice person. So if people are complaining, there's clearly something deeper. And then she arranged to connect me with my psychiatrist who I'm still with now.
Yes. And so since then you've been controlled, it has not yet, when I say controlled, as in there hasn't been another situation where it interfered with your work to an extent that there were complaints.
No, I got it. The minute my consultant saw that there's something wrong, like I'm saying, I was still delivering work. So there was never a time where I endangered a patient, not ever. Yes. For me, it's a point where I compromise myself for the sake of my patient. Yes. So I've never endangered a patient. I'm happy to stay till 5 or 16, 40 patients because it's an internal thing, because I see them in me. I treat people
Yes.
who are like me. And I think
Yes.
the rationale in that is that I could be them easily. It's just a socioeconomics.
Yeah.
So so when my work it wasn't my work performance, it was my personality. And then I got admitted to a Keso clinic in Randburg for 21 days.
Yeah. And after that, you were back to your work and no major issues. All right.
Yes.
So, Doc, at what point did you then decide, you know what, I also want to start an NPO on one side, Sisters for Mental Health, but I also want to set up a company, vocal mental mentality. Yes, because I'm trying to now see, this is a practicing doctor, but this practicing doctor wants to go beyond, in the space of psychoeducation via an NPO on one side, and also via a profit-making company on the other side. So when did this all happen?
You know, Dr. Anyati, I'm laughing because I've never in my life been business-minded. My family laughed when I said I'm starting a company because my sister was selling chappies and I'd eat the chappies without reporting, And my sister was baking banana cake and I would just eat the cake. I've never been industrious at all.
Yeah.
So when I said this company story, they were like, okay, you've never owned a company. They weren't discouraging. I've never been that
You didn't even sell a magwinya, before. You had not even sold before. Yeah.
No. Nothing. So this company story came literally, Dr. Nyati, came last year. I've never planned to open a company in my life. I only opened it last year. Yes. It was I opened my company last year, July. And then Sisters for Mental Health as well. I never thought I'd open an NPO in my life. There was no intention. I know I loved mental health and I wanted it to be a lifestyle thing instead of an academic only. So it became an organization. I registered it last year. So both my company, Vocal Mentality, and Sisters for Mental Health were registered while I was on incapacity leave after my relapse last year, during my relapse. So I was bored and I wanted to be productive.
So basically, out of the situation of the pandemic, all right, where, it disrupted and messed up almost everybody.
Yes.
Yes, it also most probably triggered you in some way, and made you to relapse. But out of that, some good came out. And that good is you, feeling, okay, I actually need to do this via an NPO. I need to do this. If I'm invited to go and talk at Anglo-American, they're going to expect me to submit an invoice, as a speaker, especially a speaker who is very good at public speaking, who's part of the Toastmasters, International. And I need to be able to bill 25,000, or something like that, for that 1 hour or 2 hours. So you had to have a company, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it. I think, when they say, I did it so unconsciously, this thing of recording, especially Sisters for Mental Health, early on in my illness, I needed to keep myself occupied. And, I could not have just said 6 months. If you're in such a high-pressured environment doing 36-hour calls, and then you're said to be in an incapacity leave for 6 months, March until September, I would have lost my mind because of doing nothing. So I then decided to actually formally register Sisters for Mental Health. So had I not been sick, all things work together for the good, as the Bible says. So in hindsight, I don't regret that. But I mean, I wasn't happy that I relapsed. But Sisters for Mental Health would not exist had I not been on incapacity leave, because I'd be busy at work. I'm a terrible multitasker. I zone in. So Sisters for Mental Health was not pressured at all because, it's at my accord. Then the business Sam is a new person completely. So like I said to you, I'm not a numbers person. I mean, I did manage to pass it. I passed decently. And so I knew it's okay. I'm going to need an accountant. So the person who does my tax, I made him my accountant because I don't know accounting. And I'm not going to make my sister my accountant, even though she's a chartered accountant. So then I registered with this idea. I had not done a business proposal at all. It was just saying, you know what, I want to psychoeducate the corporate community about the mentally ill. And much as I'm not a specialist, I have enough experience in mental health. I'm a brilliant speaker. I'm confident. And I might not have a certificate that says psychiatrist, but by living with the illness, I'm more than qualified to talk in any platform.
No, I just want to correct something there. there is the belief out there that one must be a specialist in a particular field, to be able to, let's say, do talks, in a particular field. Now, I actually do not agree with that, because other people have a special interest in a particular field. They
Absolutely.
gather experience, they read a lot in a particular field.
Yes.
They don't necessarily have to have a fellowship, a qualification or an MMed, and as long as they don't go out there and say, I'm a specialist in this, but in terms of work experience, because I've seen a few times that people think that the only person who can talk on matters of gynecology must be a gynecologist. It can't be. We all went through all of those disciplines of medicine, and we then developed interests in the various areas. Somebody like me went through family medicine, which is a discipline of medicine which covers all the other disciplines, but focusing on common conditions. So I can actually talk on any of the disciplines, because I've gone further to study about the common conditions in all of these conditions, these fields. So the point I'm trying to say is that it's important for people to know that the issue of being able to share information about a particular discipline of medicine is not an exclusive preserve of somebody with a fellowship or an MMed. I just thought, let me just clear that, so that you are also comfortable that you can go and talk about matters of mental health to the corporates, because they are not looking for the deep technical information. They are looking for working knowledge that would empower them to be able to recognize symptoms. All right.
Yes.
So when they must seek help, and to understand when they go and see a specialist in that space, what kind of treatments that they need to, be under, and all of those kind of things. And that does not necessarily need somebody with a fellowship or an MMed. All right.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so you had these two babies that came out in 2020. That is Sisters for Mental Health, and also you had the company, which is vocal mentality, right? But when did you write the book? Because we need to talk about that as well. You wrote a book and you launched it, I think, in the last quarter of last year, right? When did you write that book? Just tell us a little bit about that book. When did you write it? Did you also write it during the time you had incapacity? I just want to know a little bit more about that.
Dr. Nyati, everything happened in that 6 months, literally. My incapacity leave was from March until September.
Yeah.
But I'm somebody who likes keeping busy, and I needed the stimulation. I mean, the pressures of being a doctor. You're on call. Yeah. Now all of a sudden that's taken away from me. I'm at home. So what do I do? So at that time, my doctor said, Sam, it was a fight. How do you tell a doctor that they off work for 6 months? So I've always known she has my best interest at heart. So we fight, or she suggests, then I go and come back. So I had recently relapsed in February. I admitted to a state hospital, Ekaya, KZN.
Yeah.
I come back, and I'm back in Johannesburg in March. Just before the lockdown, thank God, I made it just in time before the lockdown in Johannesburg. So when I was in Johannesburg, from March until September, she booked me for 3 weeks. I come back, she says, Sam, you're still not well. So listen, it's a longer leave. So I'm thinking she's extending for 2 weeks. She says, I'm booking you up for 6 months. I'm putting you on incapacity leave. We'll speak to HR to formalize everything. And you need to be seen by an occupational therapist. Yes. So hence, to keep, I then rediscovered my passions.
Yes.
The high school ones. Everything is linked, like you had spoken earlier. Everything is linked. So the first appointment I had with my occupational therapist, she says, since you're not at work, what do you do for leisure? And I just gave her a blank stare. I was like, I actually don't know, Like, I just sit, Then I decided to write down, what do I love? What would make me sparkle and shine? And then I remembered, it's the writing. But before I was admitted in February, I had already met with my publisher. grant from Golden Goose Institute, because my book is self-published. I don't have a publishing house.
Yeah.
So I had an idea of writing a book, but I mean, with my schedule, I don't know how that would have happened. Then
Yeah.
I became ill, and then I contacted him again. I said, Grant, I think we need to pick up this book project. I'm ready to write. Yeah. So the book, Reflections of a Convoluted Mind, my company, Vocal Mentality, which initially the concept was psychoeducating the corporate community. But as I've realized, I believe it's important to not go as far as work only. I'm also diversifying with high schools. I'm targeting high schools as well. I think it's important for high scholars and teenagers to be considered at that level. So I'm passionate about corporate wellness.
Yes.
And then, so it's the 3 projects, in last year,
Yes.
all of them in last year,
Yeah. So 2020 was a very productive year, thanks to a relapse from bipolar.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You know, I mean, yesterday I shared my own story. I'm not going to share it here. This is not my day. But what I'm doing, the company I have now, I conceived it, you know, the idea, you know, during the lowest point in my life. So in your case, 3 things worked out for you: the book, vocal mentality, all right, and also Sisters for Mental Health. 3 different, very demanding projects. But let's talk a little bit about the Sisters for Mental Health, because I like your idea of arranging hiking sessions, you know, with people, and then as part of that, out there in nature, then you have the conversations around ways of empowering each other on issues of mental. But just talk to us about that.
So in 2019, a friend of mine who I was admitted together with at Akeso, we became friends there. She said, you know, we need something like a support group. So my friend's name is Zuhlela. She's like, we need something out there, you know, where people can be taught, and like a support group of sorts. So I'm like, okay, let's start this thing. So it was initially a WhatsApp group. It wasn't like, let's sit down and, you know, have an organization. So with all these things, besides me, the writing came naturally to me. But I didn't know so I started, so it was a WhatsApp group. Then I decided to give it the WhatsApp group a name. So also just to consider, Dr. Nyati, with these 3 projects, I do think that there was that element. I mean, great came out, but there was a whole lot of gold directed. So I thank my manic episode, because for goodness sake, who does all 3 things brand new in the same time, you know? So
the high energy levels, the drive, the ability to do long working hours. Sometimes you don't even sleep, you know, which is also not very good. It's not good not to sleep, but you guys feel, you know, the energy levels are so high.
Yes. So I was, you know, I think one of the things, Dr. Nyati, that I take home from all these projects is that it doesn't feel like work, because I love it so much.
Yes.
Sisters for Mental Health is my legacy. It is, if somebody wants to remember what did Sam contribute in the world of mental health, Sisters for Mental Health is that thing for me. It is my passion project. I decided to register it as a non-profit organization, because I didn't know that if you started something, you have to register it. Because I thought it means, well, why must I register something that's not going to make money? So I've been learning along the way. So then I asked my family friend who's, you know, registers companies, Uzwagele. I said, Zwagele, my brother, can you just do this? I didn't know you have to register. And I'm like praying now, because I've made a logo, I've created a name. I didn't know if it's taken or not. So there's a lot of prayer that time. Like, I hope this name is not taken, because I've got a logo, I've got a name. So fortunately, Uzwagele, my brother, does it quickly for me. It was clear. Hence, I went on with the name of the Sisters for Mental Health. And
by the way, that was a very good thing for you to do, because then you can approach companies for their CSI spend, corporate social investment or social responsibility spend, because we're supposed to spend at least 2% of our net profit after tax on CSI, you know. So therefore, with a registered company with an NPO number, you are able to then access funding, so that your company, Sisters for Mental Health, can grow and be much more impactful and not only relying on your pocket. I thought I needed
That would be great. That would be great because right now it's all coming from my pocket. So thank you for that information.
Yeah. All right. So just tell us a little bit though, what do you guys do? I saw the hiking. I listened to the videos from the different people that are part of this thing. From the website, and it sounded interesting. But just tell us, what do you guys do when you are out there?
So Dr. Nyati, initially it started very, like I'm saying, it started very informally. There was never a meeting to say, let's have an NPO. It started as a hiking group, which collapsed before it started. I think when you read my book, I even make a dedication to Sisters for Mental Health. I say, you died before you were born, because the whole thing disintegrated, because just when it was starting, I relapsed. And within that WhatsApp group of Sisters for Mental Health, I was having I had a psychotic episode within the WhatsApp group. So there was obviously like, you can imagine my colleagues are in that group, my bosses are in that group. It was quite, a spectacle really. So I come back from my admission to hospital. I'm back home. I didn't realize that I'm written off by people. So I want to pick up where I left off. So I go to hospital. I was admitted I was admitted in KZN. I was admitted to a particular hospital in KZN. And I hated every second of it.
Yes.
And I wanted to use the pain of that admission.
Yes.
Fruitfully, because I've always enjoyed private healthcare. I'm a doctor. I have medical aid. So when Sam is sick, she goes to your Akesos, your private sector, your city hospitals. And yes, I mean, I was a medical officer and psychiatry registrar. So I'm familiar with the state sector. It's not like I don't know the conditions. But in that still, much as I was in the state sector, it doesn't mean, I mean, for goodness sake, state hospitals, the conditions are horrific. Even worse, the psych. I think I believe it's the most neglected discipline and the most disrespected discipline, actually. Disrespected by the government, disrespected by even our colleagues who are in other disciplines. Psychiatry is undermined.
Yeah.
So
I not just on that point. I'll just come in from time to time just to add a few things. I think you are very right there that as a country, we are not prioritizing issues of mental health.
Absolutely.
I normally say to Professor Zugiswa Zingela, or I used to say that to her, she's the head of psychiatry in WSU. Say to her, look, this is like a poor cousin to physical health, because as a country, we're spending less than 5% of the total budget of healthcare. And the recommendation is that at least about 10% of the annual budget in healthcare should go to mental health. And so that chronic underfunding, which predates the New South Africa, has been there. So poor infrastructure, and also in terms of human resources, we don't have more than 1,000 psychiatrists in this country. All right, a country that has got about 60 million people. All right, so you can then see the ratio there. So yes, I agree with you. It is a space that is so important, yet so under-resourced. And as a result, access to quality mental health services in this country is a big, big problem. Even medical aids themselves, they will allocate so much money for every other, kind of intervention. But here you've got 21 days per annum, of being, if you need admission, very thin benefits for clinical psychology, for example. And yet we are being told by people who are doing research that by 2030, a significant percentage of people who seek, help, health services will be people with a mental health challenge. And COVID-19 has actually accelerated
compounded
that, and therefore it is so important that people who are in this space, but also civil society, start to make noise, because there is no justification. Some provinces are spending as little as 2.5% of their annual budget, and that is not sustainable. Yet the load has just increased as a result of COVID-19, and it's still going to be there for years to come, because issues
Absolutely.
of loss and grief and post-COVID manifestations and other things like that are still going to be there for some time. So I wanted to just emphasize the need for stakeholders in the space of mental health to get their acts together, put pressure on the government. Section 27 of our constitution that talks about access to quality health services for all. It must not only apply to physical health issues, but it must also apply to mental health issues. Okay, enough with my ranting. Let's continue. Yeah.
Can I, Dr. Nyati, I want to go as far as saying it's deliberate.
Yeah.
It's easiest to take advantage of the vulnerable. I can confidently say that psychiatry, mental health services are being treated like this because the people who are vulnerable can't speak up for themselves. I go as far by saying that because if that was not the case, if somebody wants to dispute what I'm saying, then explain life acidemania and how it was handled. Firstly, life acidemania happening in the first place, and secondly, how it was managed.
Yes.
You know, I didn't even follow. It was too traumatic for me to follow the whole story, but I know the gist. Obviously,
Yes.
we know what happened, but for me, for the fact that the thing happened, it wasn't going to happen to educated people who broke their legs. Let's do that to the vulnerable who don't even know to complain. That's number one. Then we are having these hearings with the medical ombud and so on. What do you do then? Our compensation is about 100K. 100K.
Yeah, no, it's about $1 million. It's just about $1 million, just over $1 million per person. But still, that is not enough. You know, I mean, there are people who are still missing, who are still missing today, 3 years later.
Yeah, I don't think any other discipline would have had that. So, okay, I may have gotten my numbers incorrect, but I do know that compensation would not have happened in another discipline where an educated person can debate it, but you do that to the vulnerable. So, yeah, that's my belief. Our government doesn't care for the mentally ill. That's I stand by it.
But then I think there's a constitution out there, and as part of the Section 27, rights, right to health. I think this needs to be taken up because it's not going to happen automatically. Strong voices like yours and many other people need to come and actually advocate. And this is another thing that Sisters for Mental Health could be part of.
Absolutely.
To be part of organizations that are actually agitating and ensuring that there's better resourcing for mental health services and also better outputs from institutions in terms of the related skills that are required for mental health services. All right, so now, Doc, I'm going to get into a slightly different space. One of the issues that has been bothering me for some time is the issue of some doctors who get to be reported to HPCSA as impaired doctors. All right. Yes, it is part of the rules of the HPCSA. Remember, the HPCSA it's supposed to be there to protect the public and all of that. Right?
Yes.
So it is there. It's a statutory body that we all, have to register with so that we have the licenses to do work. But I've met quite a number of people who are medical doctors who have a mental illness that is well controlled, but just because, somebody knows your diagnosis. Sometimes, let's say you have a little tiff, at the workplace.
Yes.
Immediately, they don't see it as a tiff that would have happened, in a normal situation. They attribute it to you being aggressive because of your condition, or you challenging racism in the workplace. In a place like the Western Cape. And then the next minute, they report you that you are out of control. So there is a window of, abuse of that
Yes.
which is supposed to protect the public. Now,
Absolutely.
I'm raising this issue because you also had to go through that situation where
Yes.
you were reported as a possibly impaired medical doctor, meaning the person who reported you was basically saying this person does not deserve to continue to practice as a medical doctor.
Yes.
This person's license to practice must be taken away because she is a danger to society, right?
Yes.
There are processes for reporting, but one thing that they don't always do, sometimes you can be reported by a person, but they may not even disclose who reported you. All right.
Yeah.
And there's a preliminary type of investigation to see if there's merit to this complaint. And if they think there's merit, full type of investigation, and you need to have, treating doctor and somebody else who can, give serial reports about you, so that they can get to know whether you really are out of control or not. Now, you went through an experience. I saw a letter written to you in June last year, where they
Yes.
were making you aware that a teleconference about you did sit, all right? And they expected certain reports from your treating psychologists and psychiatrists, all right?
Yes.
And then it took 9 months until March 2021 for them to come back to you with a one-pager that just says, you know what, forget about that thing. We found that there's no reason for you to be considered impaired. Now, what I want to know, when you got to know that you've been reported as a doctor who's possibly impaired, how did you react to that? Was it the thing that maybe caused you to have a trigger? I just want you to relate your personal experience to your being reported so that your license could be taken away.
Okay, so Dr. Nyati, I was admitted to a state hospital in KwaZulu-Natal in February. I was admitted there for 2.5 weeks or 3, okay?
Yeah.
I can admit that at the time, I was psychotic, out of touch of reality. Hence, I was admitted as an involuntary healthcare user.
Yes.
And just to say that, because I've worked in psychiatry, I'm very well versed in the Mental Health Care Act. I know it like the back of my hand. So
Yes.
much as I was unwell, I was aware of what's being done right and when are my rights being hindered. No? So when I was admitted to hospital in February, at this particular hospital, I was tricked to go because I was too I would not have agreed. So the morning I get it, I'm not going to go into too much detail. Just
Just high level.
Yeah, high level. Yeah. So when I got admitted, I was out of touch with reality, and my best friend Ulindiwe I was on leave, so she comes to fetch me at home because now my parents I was going to fight my parents, so they could not have taken me. So they made me believe that we're going hiking, as I think you can pick up. I love the outdoors. So
love hiking.
So I'm dressed in my gym kit. Ulindiwe has taken leave from work because she's spending time with her friend who's come down from Joburg. And her leave just becomes a state hospital admission. We get to the state hospital. When I open my eyes, Aibo, this is not a hiking scene. It's a state hospital, and it was chaos. Long story short, I get admitted, and then I was fighting. I was really, really fighting, and it's my first time in a state hospital. And I said to them, "You are not going to admit me. Put me to my doctor." And I said, "You are not going to. I know my rights." So my best friend puts my. I said, "Call my doctor. Put her on the phone. We can't get a hold of her." So I'm screaming now to my doctor who's in Joburg in the voicemail. I'm screaming that they want to commit me. They want to admit me because I just was so upset. Okay, then I'm admitted there for as long as I was. Obviously, I can't recall because I was not well.
Yes.
So when I came in there, I was an involuntary healthcare user because I was aggressive and psychotic, simply meaning for the listeners, and according to the Mental Health Care Act, If you're an involuntary mental health care user, it means you are a danger to yourself or to other
others.
people. Yes. So in that case, I was a danger to myself because I had no insight at all. So I understand and still agree that I should have been declared involuntary at that time.
Yeah.
One thing I love about my training at Undergrad University is that, they used to be so annoying about the forms. Guys, fill in the forms correctly. Patient voluntary, patient assisted, they were very strict about that. And I didn't, you're thinking, why are they always being like this? But that saved me because I was aware now when my rights were being hindered. Because as I moved from the involuntary ward, because each category of admission, involuntary, assisted, voluntary, comes with limitations of the patient's rights to choose.
Yeah.
If you're declared involuntary, you have no say about anything. So I get moved to a more mobile ward. So in essence, according to the Mental Health Care Act, when I moved to that ward, the one where we're more independent, I should have been converted to assisted mental health care user, which means there's more flexibility in terms of my movements. The doctor who admitted me, they did not change the forms. And I was aware because when I looked at the board, it said involuntary. I asked the doctor who was managing me, I said to her, why am I still an involuntary patient? Because I'm moving around. Should I not be converted to assisted by now? So all these protests were irritating to her because I think I'm probably I really was a problematic patient, not because I was rebellious. I was just too knowledgeable for her. I think she's used to patients who don't know their rights. She's really used to patients who are poorer, don't know to speak up for themselves. I come there as a doctor, not just a doctor who's working in the same discipline that she's in charge of. So I was very well aware. So I look at the body says involuntary and I'm asking her, why am I not assisted? And then the hostility started. So long story short, the reporting came from the doctor who has never seen me at work. I've worked in Johannesburg since 2013. I have been a brilliant registrar and medical officer. My seniors at Wits University have been amazing. Barra Hospital everywhere. I was a higher performing registrar, a brilliant doctor because I love what I do. I get admitted in KZN. A doctor who's never seen my work performance. I've never endangered a patient. I came as a patient to that hospital. But she is the one that reported me to the HPCSA. So people, when they have power, they use it inappropriately, and that's what that happened.
And how did you feel about, when you got the notification that you have been reported?
So when I was discharged, my doctor had booked me off for 6 months now. So I'm at home already thinking, what is my life purpose? Because my identity is this doctor, as being a doctor. So my leave is from March. This letter comes in on the 15th of June, 2020. So it's a letter from the HPCSA. Saying, dear Dr. Ngcobo, there was a health committee meeting teleconference on the 21st of May, 2020. So basically, there was a conference about me in my absence that I'm unaware of. So I'm already depressed that I'm not at work. Now I'm being told that my license to be a doctor is being investigated because I'm a dangerous doctor. No basis whatsoever, because in this letter, which I have in front of me, I printed it out. Because I wanted it as a certificate along with my medical degree as well. I read this letter. I'm already depressed and frustrated. Health Committee meeting teleconference 21 May 2020. Kindly be informed that your matter was discussed at the Health Committee teleconference meeting that was held on 21 May 2020. A conference about my well-being was
There was no notification to you about
No.
that prior to you receiving this letter?
No, it just dropped in my email. And, everyone who has received this letter knows how painful that is. I burst into tears. I was frustrated. I was shaking. I was traumatized. And recently, because the verdict of this thing, so this letter came to 15 June 2020 from the registrar's office from the health committee coordinator. Ne? This is HPCSA. So this process was from last year, June 15. And the feedback came 30 March 2021.
9 months later.
Yes. So I don't know where I stand. Can I still be a doctor? And if I am one, I'm a doctor that needs supervision, And when this letter came and saying the obvious, that I'm fine, all the rage and pain came to a point where I met with a friend of mine who knows Zuko. I told her that, I got this letter Dr. Nozuko
Yes.
Mkabayi. I was
In
showing her
fact-
this letter.
Yeah. In fact, she has just written something on Facebook. She says psychiatry is the most definitely looked down upon by even our esteemed professors, HODs, deans of
Yes.
medical schools. This cuts across in all provinces. Even our own colleagues look down on fellow colleagues with mental health
Yes.
illnesses. Stigma is a huge issue in families, societies, and worse with our very own doctor colleagues and superiors. We certainly need more advocates like Dr. Samke Ngcobo, especially in Black communities. Government needs to come to the party. But I think beyond government, but professionals like you who are actually living with mental illness as mental health users need to organize themselves, some form of NPO, work closely with established entities like the Section 27, so that because they have the resources, they have the resources, and you can be able to, using your experience, to be able to advocate for improvement in the processes, so that people don't just report, just because they are malicious, but they must report when you really pose a danger.
Absolutely.
Obviously, there may be a fine line there. So there must be a way to really say of these complaints, which one is malicious, but with no basis, which one is really, based on something sound, So I think HPCSA, the regulations around this matter, they need to be relooked, not necessarily, obviously, HPCSA still has to protect the public, but it must protect against the abuse of that process. Because the very doctor you're talking about, Dr. Mkabayi, she was doing sessions in December, November, December in Cape Town. And she had a racial issue, that she was challenging. And the next minute, she was reported. So what I'm trying to say is that there is abuse of something that is supposed to protect the public, but there needs to be some scrutiny of, the agenda when somebody is actually reporting, so that it is not just reporting because I want to just get back at you.
Oh, and Dr. I'm sorry,
Yes.
not to saying bad thing I did there, but the
Yeah.
story stands you're passionate, cool story.
Yeah.
Dr. Nyazi, for me, Sisters for Mental Health was just a social group, but after that admission, I
Yes.
realized the importance of advocacy, and I advocate for the activist. So it was a social group. It was never going to be anything. But after what happened to me, I thought I'm going to return to my luxurious life of private healthcare. But the people here have no say. And that doctor literally abused her power because she's very influential in KZN. She's very influential, and she punished me. They were calling me when I was in Durban and Joburg. The registrar kept calling me. Have you reported yourself? And I said, that's not how you go about it. They were wanting me to go and report. Who do you even phone? I was furious, Dr. Nyati, because she's a powerful person. Who are they going to listen to if there's someone being reported to be a problem? And for me, my anger and resentment is not towards the HPCSA. HPCSA is a regulatory body. They are very important, much like SAICA for the chartered accountants. Those bodies are very important. They have a responsibility. They have a responsibility that if somebody is reported, we have to follow due process.
Yes.
So my resentment is not with HPCSA. It's the process. It's so flawed. It's so subjective. It's so discriminatory. And that's what needs to be addressed.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying, that it can be abused. All right. It's a necessary process.
Yes.
But it's open to abuse. And therefore, there needs to be a way of tightening those processes of reporting, so that they can sift people who are just abusing the system and reporting others from those who are actually genuinely concerned about the health of the patients.
Yes. So, doctor, at that time now, I'm devastated. I mean, already I'm on an incapacity leave. You understand? And I'm keeping myself busy doing other things. Now I'm being told my license is going to be taken away. Now, the rage I felt and the pain came from the fact that I did not finish medical school in record time because of my mental illness. I get the certificate. Now I'm going to be discriminated after qualifying. You're going to invalidate my hard work.
Yeah.
I was furious and I wanted justice. Initially, I said I'm going to sue. I was going to sue.
Yeah.
What helped me was my psychologist, was my psychiatrist in Johannesburg now, and my
Yeah.
friend who said, you know what, Sam, it's going to drain you emotionally. You are going to
Yeah.
be fighting someone who's within the system. You're not going to win with that. They said, don't fight a system that's going to end up victimizing you, which I understood.
Yeah.
So, but
Yes.
I thought I need justice for this. Hence, when you brought up this discussion, I was at Postnet today. I printed these things as evidence because, this thing can end up being a he said, she said kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
felt that people must know, even people who intimidate. You see, Dr. Nyati, me opening a company and leaving state, I wanted the independence and the freedom to say what I want, because I would definitely not be saying this if I was still under the work, because I was going to be victimized and bullied. That is why I'm self-employed, so I can say what I want to say without feeling that somebody's going to look funny at me tomorrow. So my doctor and my psychologist said, Sam, you know what, it is annoying, just follow due process, which we did.
Yes.
OT managed me, wrote a report.
Yes.
Psychologist managed me, wrote a report. My psychiatrist, Dr. Singh, wrote a report, we submit.
Yeah.
Then there's another conference that's held again in my absence. Now this meeting is held in September. Now it says, dear Dr. Ngcobo, after our meeting and the report, we have decided we need you to be assessed by an independent psychiatrist.
Yes.
So I submit what comes from my people. Now they want their own person. Do you see how flawed that is?
Yes. Because you see, because there's that first part where it's like a preliminary thing. Then they want stuff from your treating doctors.
Yes.
Okay. And then depending on what they get, they may then elect that they send you to a doctor, specialist in that field of their own choice, to see whether the report from your treating doctor is not subjective.
Yes. And, when I was angry about, so now this is letter number 2, a second conference held in my absence about my well-being. Okay. Yeah. Not communicated to my doctor if they think maybe I'm dangerous, So I was furious. So my doctor says, Sam, I know this is emotionally taxing. Follow due process. Our things are in order. You've never been a danger at work. Your consultants have been happy about you. And, I even spoke to one of the consultants at Wits University. And I told her, I said, Dr. Friedlander, I'm being put under investigation. And she says, but that's not warranted. You're an excellent registrar. You've never been a problem. Why are you being investigated? And also, how can somebody who you've never worked with is the one that's reporting you? So my doctor said, follow due process. We follow due process. Now I have to find a psychiatrist. No. I get an email. They allocate their own person. What's the criteria? I'd like to know that person that was allocated to me. What was the criteria for them to be linked to me? Yeah. I see a name, Dr. Ngcobo. This is your independent assessment. I get given a name. They say it's your responsibility to follow up. Here's the email address. Deadline assessment from this doctor must come by January. It sounds like a threat. This letter sounds like a threat, and anyone who's received it can back me up. If you don't do this, further action will be taken against you. Let's just say they worried that I'm impaired. Why are we threatening each other now? Like, why is it sounding like a threat? If you don't bring it, further action will be taken against you. Are you worried about me being impaired, or you're now threatening me with you're going to revoke my license? Yeah. So I kept delaying this investigation because I was so scared. I was not trusting the system. What if the person doesn't take a liking to me? What if the psychiatrist that they allocate doesn't like me for whatever reason? Who's there? It's not two psychiatrists. It's one person. That's very subjective. So I felt terrified. What if I sit in front of a psychiatrist that they've allocated who just takes a dislike to me, be it a racial dislike, be it feeling that I'm arrogant and too assertive, whatever the reason. So the first one they allocate, I had worked with who I'd known them before, and I said, no, I don't think they're independent, they biased, kindly allocate another one, which they did. Yes. They allocated me to a certain doctor, Dr. Siape.
Okay, yes. I know her. Is it PE or PE?
Dr. Sebelelo Siape.
Okay, yeah.
I'm eternally grateful for the fact that it was a psychiatrist who was empathetic, who really did an independent report. I followed due process. She interviewed me. She was very thorough. What made me grateful that I was assessed by her was not that I mean, I was scared because it's someone chosen by them. What made me relieved, I didn't know her from a bar of soap. I've never heard of her because she's a very senior somebody.
Yes,
What
she's now
made me
she's now the president of the SASOP.
South African, yes, she's the president of South African Society of Psychiatrists.
Yeah.
What made me happy about her is that I felt that whatever she says, it will vindicate me because the president of psychiatrists is gonna give a report. Look, I've assessed this person and this is my feedback. Because at the end of the day, what if someone who is junior to the person who referred me is now assessing me? So this assessment happens in January 11. Dr. Siape submits the report. Report is submitted. Then I get told the obvious that there's a conference again held on the 30th of March. Health Committee virtual meeting 9 March 2021. Kindly be informed that your matter was discussed at the Health Committee. It's resolved that there is no evidence of impairment in terms of Section 51 of the Health Professions Act. So I'm cleared.
You
So
are
one would
clear,
think
but
that
you've had a 9 months
yes.
of being in limbo in terms of your profession.
And Dr. Nyati, you would think that I'd be excited to read that, but I was furious. It infuriated me because it stated what I knew to be obvious. And I was very angry. And to a point where Dr. Nyati, it triggered me and it triggered my mental illness in recent weeks.
Yeah.
Because the thing that people must realize is that this independent report, guess who pays for it? You pay for it as a patient. I have to pay for it. I must pay for my team. I pay for the psychologist. I pay for my psychiatrist. I pay for the OT. You, as the HPCSA, allocate me to someone who must assess me, and I must pay for that. And how much is that report? It's 8,500 to be told what you know. So I was furious, relieved that this thing is over, relieved that the psychiatrist who assessed me was independent, relieved that it's somebody who's well respected within SESOP, so that they can't threaten me in that way again. But very upset that I still have to pay for this report, which at this point I can't afford it. It's 8,500. I'm owing this money for this report. So it angered me because it's an unnecessary expense incurred by them. Why must I pay for their independent report? Why can't they finance it? Because they're the ones that think it's necessary.
Yeah. If they were asking for that preliminary, part of the investigation, they ask you to bring stuff from your treating doctors and psychologists, it makes sense. But for a second opinion, independent opinion or second opinion, I think, initiated by them, we're paying a lot of money there.
Absolutely.
Yes, it should. Okay, you talked about incapacity leave. It's part of the work that I do. We actually evaluate applications for temporary incapacity leave and also for ill health retirement for the public service. All right. So when a person is applying for those benefits, the initial report is paid for by them. But if after receiving your treating doctor's report and we still feel there's a gap, then it is us who pay to send you to an independent doctor to verify something that was not clear with your treating doctor. So I would have expected a similar approach, where he who initiates must pay.
I agree.
Yeah, but anyway, let's leave it. But those are some of the things. If you guys can Nozuko went through a similar kind of process and was cleared. You have gone through that and you've been cleared. And that experience, that no one invites the experience you guys went through. However, now that you have the experience, you've seen gaps in the process. And it is those gaps that you guys need to fight to close, not only for you, but for other colleagues, because now that process is prone
it's highly flawed.
It is prone to abuse, and therefore it needs to be addressed, and it won't be addressed by government, it won't be addressed by the powerful people. It is the mental health users who are medical professionals who must actually pull together their time and resources to actually say, for fairness, we think this is what should happen, and be able to work with established, bodies that have got a voice in healthcare. Hence, I talked about Section 27 as an organization that's got deep pockets and that is used to challenge the government. They did that, you know, with many things. I mean, previously, obviously, it was TAC and things like that that challenged government to the Concord. This time, Section 27 is there. It's the same people, but now under a different umbrella, you know, and that's the kind of body that you can collaborate with and be able to identify where there's potential areas of unfairness and work at closing those to ensure a fair process. You know,
Yeah.
it is still important for HPCSA to protect the public, but
Yes.
close the areas that are potential areas of abuse. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Doc, let's wrap up now. Your book. Why did you write that book? Yes, you were bored and you had been planning to do that in 2019. You had already got a publisher, but I don't think that's the only reason. What was the motivation for you to put a pen to paper? Okay, it may not be a pen now, it may be a computer, but to say I am writing a book. What was your vision? You know, what was the purpose? What was your objective of writing this book, which was soft launched, I think in the last quarter of last year?
Yeah,
Is it last
17
year?
October. 17 October,
Yes.
yes, 2020. Yes.
Yes.
So my intention with this book, and I'd say of the things I've pursued, okay, you know, Sisters is my non-profit. Vocal mentality makes me a profit. This book is genuinely something that stemmed from the pain I experienced at the KZN hospital, how I was treated. So basically for me, I wanted to validate my experience because I could see that I was so incredibly frustrated there and I felt unheard. So then you add to it, I get discharged. Now my qualification is now being in question.
Yeah.
So I thought I want to legitimize my struggle. So in it, I talk about the actual life or the symptoms. I talk about being a doctor with a mental illness. I talk about being a patient and how we get treated by doctors.
Yes.
And I talk about how flawed the system is and how we get discriminated. So I wanted a book that can be read by even a teenager, because already if a book says by Dr. Samke Ngcobo and it's this big, it's already intimidating.
Yeah.
And I'm focusing on one subject matter, which is mental health. So it can be redundant now. I wanted it to be direct. When somebody is reading it, it gets to the point very quickly, but with something to take home. And I make sure that I don't use excessive jargon that will confuse people where it's just for the intellect only. Where I use medical terms, I start the chapter and define, because someone's going to go on and say psychosis. Yes, for the doctor, you know, but for the person who doesn't know psychiatry or mental health, you're not going to win them. So I wrote this book because I wanted to validate my experience, because I felt very threatened and I felt unheard. I wanted somebody who struggles with depression to feel heard. I wanted somebody who feels alone in the struggle, someone who's suicidal, to know that those feelings are normal. So I decided to call it Reflections of a Convoluted Mind. Now, those are contrasting words. Why reflections? How does a convoluted mind reflect?
You should, yes, because, you know, your mind is mixed up. How can you even be able to reflect, you know? But I'm sure there was an intention in that choice of the
Absolutely.
title.
It just came to me. You know how musicians say they just had the song came in their mind? Yeah. Literally, the title just sprang in my face. I had so many titles I played with. My publisher would just laugh because I changed it so many times. But I woke up one day, I'm like, you know, I'm going to call it Reflections of a Convoluted Mind. And these are words that are contrasting, because when your mind is convoluted, you can't reflect. But for me, because of how I was stigmatized, I realized last year how I was treated by former colleagues. And the discrimination and how isolated. I felt that people reduced me to my illness. I stopped being Usamke. All my credibility as a brilliant registrar, brilliant a medical officer, brilliant doctor. I love my work. There was never a day where I thought, oh my gosh, I want to finish at 11 o'clock. I was willing to stay till 5, see 40 patients, because it was so personal to me, Dr. Nyati, because like I said earlier, I said our socioeconomics separates us with my patients. That's the only thing. Otherwise, I would be them having a grant. Otherwise, I would be them in lifeless demanding. And I was very conscientized and aware of that. So for me, I would spend my time, my favorite rotation, because you know there's different rotations at the hospitals. There's forensics, there's, your TARA for different reasons. My favorite was community psychiatry, where you're doing the clinics. And in my mind, I wanted to provide first world care in a third world setting.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed that. And then for me, I just was in touch with their vulnerability.
Yes.
And I could see the injustices. I could see how they are literally a victim of their poverty to not get quality care. So I felt that I am going to return to my private health care. I'm going to return to my life of privilege. They will never get that. And I feel that I will speak on their behalf. Obviously, our lifestyles are different. Our incomes are different. But no one will ever know the experience other than the person living with the illness. A fellow mental health care user, uThuli waMasithethe, uThuli.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Umhlungu. Yes.
Umhlungu, yes.
She's my home girl from Umtata, now based in Durban. Yes.
Yes. She said it so beautifully. She said there is no mental health care. You cannot meet in a committee about mental health as professors, as psychiatrists, as psychologists, without a mental health care user in that room represented, because no one will know and understand the life of a mentally ill person other than the person walking it every day. That person might not have a degree, but they know it on a day-to-day. So that's what inspired the book.
Yes. All right. So how do people access that book, Doc?
My book is available.
Remember, you said you are self-published, which then means the only distribution channel is via you or your website. I won't be able to get it in any bookstore. It can only be via Samke. So how do people get this book?
Hey, Dr. Nyati, it's a blessing and a curse to be an independent author. The blessing is that the book is mine. There's no publishing house that owns it. It's my book. I worked with my publisher, and then when the book is done, all rights belong to me. So I choose how the book is distributed. So my distributor is Golden Goose Institute, and I just was so happy with them because I got to say everything I wanted to say. I had the liberties, and that's the joy of being an independent author. So then my book is out there, and then I'm asking him, so now that I have a book, how is it going to be accessed? Because I can't sell individually, So then that's another fight. But by God's grace, there's a lady who does book distributions for independent authors. And it's now at Exclusive Books. It's everywhere. It's available at Exclusive Books. It's available at Take a Lot. It's available everywhere. So if you go to Exclusive Books, you say the title. If it's not there, they order it for you. It is available everywhere in mainstream. Online, it's available on Amazon.com on your Kindle as well.
Beautiful, beautiful then, Doc. Because I'm going to buy a few. Because part of my business, we deal with issues of mental health in the workplace. So I will, gift some of my stuff, and I will first bring them to you for the $1 million signature. All right.
I'd love that. I'd be happy to do so.
So, but we will talk offline about that. But what's next for you, Dr. Samke? I'm going to read just a few comments here, but just think about this question I've asked you now. What's next for you? Okay.
Yes.
But Nozuko Mkabayi, obviously you guys are like BFFs. It says the book is very poetic indeed, my friend. It has the potential to both make you laugh and cry a minute later. All right. Same doctor, Nozuko, the greatest teacher in mental health is the one who lives with the mental condition. Let me jump comments from here. Dokozo Nomaswazi Mzimela says, your work is amazing, Samke.
Thank you so much.
Matsidiso Ntako Makovi, connection is shaky and sound is low, but great conversation. Same Dokozo Nomaswazi Mzimela says, I didn't know about this. I guess it's around the issues around cost and being reported for that you are an impaired doctor or possibly impaired doctor. Nokfika Matabela says, I'm so proud of you, Samke. So you've got a lot of people who are rooting for you. And people will never know, the experience you've just shared had they not, logged in, they would not know that when you are reported, it's a lonely journey. It's a frustrating journey. And
Yes.
it's you against the institution. It's you against the system. And now people know. Now, I attended a presentation in March 2019 by one of the members of the health committee. And from that presentation, I still kept records. And one of the interesting things is that of the various professions within the Health Professions Council of South Africa, the medical professionals, I'll say, I'm not talking specialists, I'm not talking interns, I'm talking about, MPs, the doctors who are qualified medical doctors,
Independent.
They constitute, the largest percentage, followed by, interns, medical interns, and then student interns. Then you bring in psychologists there as well. So the medical, component of HPCSA overwhelmingly has the highest number of, people who are being reported. But the number one reason, which is 60% of the cases, are relating to substance abuse.
Yes.
Right, 60%. And then followed by others. The one for bipolar mood disorder is about 9% of the total cases reported. But when you look, the top 4 or top 5 are all under the space of psychiatry, and so it is an area that obviously needs to be given attention, not only in terms of the working conditions and tightening of those rules, but also dealing with the problems at source. You see 60% of the people are reported substance abuse. And most people who start abusing substances, it's some form of escapism from not being able to deal with or cope with their stressors. And obviously later they get addicted. So it is important to not look at this matter in isolation, but also look at how are the working conditions for doctors, both in private and in public. Which of these are actually the drivers for them to end up? There was a study done by Medscape in 2019, Medscape in the US, looking at issues of mental health challenges amongst medical doctors and issues relating to their work. All right, that is work-related stresses. I think it was like 40% of the drivers. All right, and then relationship problems. That is, we spend a lot of time at work, and sometimes we neglect, our spouses or partners. And then the other one was financial issues. The bad decisions sometimes that we make as doctors. We want to have the biggest house and the biggest car, and sometimes it becomes a challenge to service those things. So what I'm trying to say, whilst we see the end point being the highest number of people are reported, it's important to also look at the root causes and see what prevention measures can be put in place as part of the employee health and wellness programs, so that at least work-related stresses can be mitigated as possible triggers of the stress that may lead people to abusing substances, that is alcohol, illicit drugs, sometimes prescription, medication, like the stuff that's used for, in anesthesiology. So answer my last question, Doc, so that we can wrap up.
Okay, where to from here? I am so, Dr. Tanyati, I'm so passionate by my independence. So I'm going to focus to expand vocal mentality. I'm very passionate. I've got big dreams, big goals for it. I'm already in negotiations with schools. I initially, my target is corporate. I believe that toxic work environments have been a serious problem, and many mental health issues arise from that. Yes. So corporate psychoeducating the corporate community to understand the impact, there needs to be boundary setting. These things trigger people to have anxiety, workload. So I'm very big in that space. The other space that I've become very passionate and aware of is the high schools. targeting high schools. So vocal mentality is going to reach high schools and reach companies, the corporate sector. So I've met the most incredible people along the way who have started companies that focus on corporate wellness, and I'm partnering with them or joining them, or rather we say we collaborate. So I've basically met up with people who are equally passionate about mental health. And the commonality I've found with those people is that they all have a mental health issue. So the passion then and the intention is very personal. And if something is personal, you do it for the right reasons. We're not, you know, when you start a company, you want to make a profit, but the priority is the service itself. So I've been having some business meetings with people who are like-minded. It's very lovely. There's a company I'm really, really excited about. It's called Work Well, by a very brilliant young lady who's just started. The company is a year old, but the lady is a visionary. So I want to collaborate with her in some way. Ulethabo Sekelele. She's amazing. So she also is passionate about you know, mental health in the workplace. So I really am excited about journeying with her. Sisters for Mental Health, it's my baby, that one. It's, you know, it's still a little one, but I'm planning to grow it. And like I was saying, initially I was very naive and innocent with my hikes. But when I realized the severity of the issues, I then became aware that the advocacy part needs to be strengthened. The activism part needs to be strengthened as well. So that's where Sam is. It's private. For me, I prefer being not unemployed. I prefer being self-employed, because the bullying is not going to be there. The things I say are my things. I'm not going to be bullied by a boss who's going to say, why did you say that? So it comes with risk too. You know what it's like to start a company, you know, there's risk involved. You're not getting the secure bank account. But for me, the passion is driving me. I know that it will come together. Right now, my focus is to wake up happy. All I know is that I will not ever put myself in a setting where Makshaya Sunday afternoon Metro FM saying it depressed to Sasu Monday. I don't ever want that feeling again. I want to look forward to my work, and I found my calling, and my calling is in corporate wellness, and my calling is with Sisters for Mental Health. My nonprofit brings me so much joy.
All right, no, Doc, I'm happy you are joining us in the corporate wellness space. I've been in this space for the last 21 years, so I'm sure we'll collaborate in some way.
That would be great.
For me, the more the merrier.
Absolutely.
You know, and there aren't many, you know, established Black companies. In fact, we are the only established Black company in the corporate wellness space. You know, fighting it out with, you know, companies originally from Europe and others. You know, I'm not gonna mention their names. So it's, for me, I get excited when there are new entrants. You know, so that one can see how to leverage and collaborate with them. So I'm sure we'll have some discussions, you know, outside of this about this particular space. It's a space where we need more of people like you, like, you know, even people like Banjegonozu. I know she's a CEO in the public sector, so we can't leave her, you know, we can't call her back. She must stay there. One of your colleagues, Lindiwe Kumalo Mugabe said, I'm so proud of Samke. She's an amazing friend and doctor. This is just the beginning. There's still more to come. I'm truly blessed to have her in my life. All right. There's also Nokutula Mandru Mtetwa, who says, we were in medical school together. Such a great sister. So proud of you, Samke. So, you know, so many people are actually rooting for Samke. I think maybe that's something that tells us that we should, you know, call it the end of our show. It took longer than we normally take, but when you've got somebody like Samke who has so much to share, you know, who has got so much to share, then, you know, we are bound to go beyond the time. But I want to thank everybody who joined us to listen to this amazing story of this, you know, a lady who, against all odds, she went through high school, passed very well. Against all odds, she cruised through medical school. You know, against all odds, she has been able to continue working as a doctor with minimal, you know, impact, you know, in terms of the illness that she's been living with. And now she is about to embark on a new journey where she is doing what she wants, leveraging not only her medical skills, but other skills that she has picked up along the way. And corporate wellness is the space that she has identified side by side with doing work under the NPO. So I want to wish her all the best in the work that she is doing. And I want to thank all of you who were able to listen. You know, we value your time. Sunday is a family time, you know, and for you to dedicate an hour and a half to two listening to two people talking, you know, we don't take that for granted. So I want to thank all of you, hoping that it's not the last time that you visit our channel. So I want to thank you, and may you have a productive and safe week ahead. From our side, thank you once again, and goodbye.